And that brings us to our next one, Connor Cox, a redshirt sophomore, transfers from South Carolina to another SEC school. Was one of the top tight ends in his class, and he finds himself to Chapel Hill. Troy, when you're looking at Connor Cox, there's a lot of potential there. I think that, me personally, I feel like he's going to be one of the top, I'm going to use your word, dogs in the room. It's definitely going to be interesting, how he's used. We saw him, it was him in the spring game, right? That the practiced like a pro day. Sorry, I grin every time I say that name. Also, I cringe a little bit. Just call it spring game. But, he was one of the ones that caught the touchdown, right, from the tight end room. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I'm really interested to see how his development has been over the past few months. But Troy, let's talk about Connor Cox. And he's 6'6", 250, made his way to Chapel Hill. Now, what potentially can Carolina fans expect from Connor Cox?
Yeah, man. Looking back at Connor, there wasn't much at South Carolina that he did to really for us to rave about. I think he made an appearance against Akron where South Carolina just absolutely blew him out 50-7. One catch, 9 yards, and a touchdown. And that's no knock on him. South Carolina, had some pretty good skill players last year and over the last couple years. But Connor's a guy that originally comes from North Carolina. I don't know which high school he played at. Found his way down to Jacksonville, Florida. In 2022, he appeared in 14 games, hauled in 30 passes for, just over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But, his junior year in high school, he saw snaps at both wide receiver and tight end. Played in 5 games, 7 passes, 148 yards. But just a guy, man, that honestly, I think, and just looking at the stuff that I've seen on him is a guy that could come in and, a plug and play kind of guy. You could see him, spread out wide, in the slot. You could see him line up, true on the line like most tight ends do. But just a guy that I foresee being a plug and play kind of guy, almost like that Bryson Nesbitt role that Bryson played for us over the last couple of years. Being able to space him out wide on the hash mark, run some mesh routes, some drag routes, posts and corners and stuff like that. Get him out in space. I do think, while he is 6'5", 6'6", 251 pounds, I would like to see him add some muscle. And I think with this strength and conditioning staff and the nutrition, the nutritionists that we've, and Belichick and the staff have brought in, he certainly can do that. But I think a guy that in the right system, and the right fit and scheme can be a guy that can make some difference for us. Be super interested to see how Freddie uses him, because Freddie Kitchens is tasked with not only being the offensive coordinator for us this year, but he's still coaching tight ends. That's his group. So he knows the type of production that we've had from that room the last 2-3 seasons. And I think Connor's a guy that can come in and with the right fit, the right scheme, and a game plan around him, I do think we could see some production from him, whether that's lined up as a true tight end or spread out wide in different bunch sets and stuff like that. Super excited for Connor to get an opportunity somewhere fresh at a tight end room that saw some pretty heavy production leave and exit last year between Bryson and Copenhagen. So sky's the limit for him, and we'll be around to watch it.
I mean,
you talk about Freddie, man. Freddie was at South Carolina and actually helped recruit Connor to South Carolina.
Very, very good point, Trevor.
He obviously saw something in him to want to, get him to come back and join him.
And I'll say this about Connor Cox too. State was very, very heavy on Connor. They got in the mix for him. And I believe, I got to throw my digs in there every now and then. I believe he actually canceled his state visit. Dude didn't even make it on campus, which if you ever been in Raleigh, I wouldn't really want to go there either, but that's just me. I'll hit you with the Chris. I digress. But 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 no, man, a guy that saw some pretty good interest coming out of the portal. Them guys down at MooU right down the street wanted him pretty good. But super excited to have him in Carolina blue.
Yeah,
He's with the right Carolina now. That's all I'm gonna say.
that's right. Yeah, I saw a comment from us. I think it was a state account. I mean, they're always all over Twitter under everything.
Oh yeah, we didn't want him anyways. We didn't really want him anyways.
Yeah, and it was just like a few days ago, and it was like, gosh, somebody was like Carolina blue, and the account was like, it's the ugliest color in the world, and I was like, I wanted to respond so bad, which I mean I could have, but I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time. But I just like, that's interesting that the ugliest that Jesus decided to paint, the thing that you look at every day, according to you, is the ugliest color in the world, the sky.
Hey, you can't get to heaven in a red canoe because God's favorite color is Carolina blue. Come on. No, y'all like that. That was free.
Now, did you make that up?
No. It's a saying, a little rhyme that I've heard growing up. It goes, Duke is puke, Wake is fake. The team I hate is NC State. You can't get to heaven in a red canoe because God's favorite color is Carolina blue. I don't know if anybody else has heard. I don't know if anybody else has heard that, but that's my calling card right there.
I've heard it. I've heard it now. What should I say now? We digress. But
that's right. We digress.
So state fans are going to comment, man. They can't even do a position breakdown without talking about us. But in fairness, we were talking about Duke before we went on live.
I was going to say, man, I think that's like 2 or 3 podcasts in a row that I've mentioned those cow milkers down there. So I'm sorry.
Still a little hurt, man. It's our time to get on the street, right?
Yeah,
it's coming. I tell them all, you better count your days. It's coming.
It's a new era in Chapel Hill. That comes from our hype video, if you don't know. Anyway, Trevor, get in here on Connor Cox. What do you think? What you got? What do you think? You think he's gonna have production this year under Belichick?
I hope so, man, because we're gonna need him. I mean, they've found they're looking. Every kid that they've got in that room is 6'6", 250, 240. So we've got the bodies in there. We're gonna need him to be a contributor. I think he's more of he can do both, right? I see Jake as kind of the alpha, the big guy in the room, but Connor, he's got a lot of upside run blocking too. He's got a bigger frame, and like Troy said, he could benefit from adding some more muscle. But I mean, he's a kid that has played some high level football. He doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's came from a program that actually developed Hayden Hurst. I mean, so he's been working at it for a while, but I mean, I hope so, man, because he's going to be needed a lot, I think, this year, especially early on in the year. So I hope we can see him take that next step forward with Belichick and Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, and just to touch on a little bit, again, like I was saying, I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself from the wide receiver room that the wide receiver room is loaded with skill and potential, right? And that goes the same thing, but for this tight end room, but lacks the experience, other than Jordan Owens, which we're going to get to here shortly, which is another guy that I feel like has been brought in for a specific reason, and we're going to touch on that. But man,
somebody, I don't mean to cut you off, Chris, but somebody, to piggyback on what you said or what you're saying, somebody in this room has got to step up and make the most of an opportunity, and really take reins of that tight end one position, whether it's Jake, whether it's Connor, Shamar, Jordan, all the guys that we talk about, this evening, and somebody's got to step up. I'm anxious, almost excited to see who takes those, takes that opportunity